So I just wanted to make a quick video to explain something about the importance of eyes. Um, there's the saying, the eyes are the key to the soul. They literally are. So if you pay attention to someone's eyes, they literally can show you if they're on drugs, if they're on alcohol, if they're tired, if they're depressed, if they're possessed, if they are on drugs. I think I may have said that already. But again, when I was talking before on a video about consciousness being removed, or your spirit being removed, or even now with the cloning technology that we have, and the nanotechnology and the ability to have a cyborg that's half cyborg, half biological makeup, right? Because again, these entities and secret societies and rich people have found ways to create what looks to appear as a human, but again, they're mostly machine, and in fact also basically AI, but in an organic suit. So like they've grown skin, but they don't, and they might even bleed. Like again, I'm not going around stabbing these cyborg people or these entities. So I'm not sure like the whole thing about it is, but I do know that you can, even if with animals and babies and adults, that you can look into their eyes and have full conversations with them, or just feel them out if they're really them or not. So like a big thing to be mindful of, especially with these, because again, demons aren't just always like a floating spirit or a devil with horns, right? They can, and again, not everybody is like a cyborg flesh suit. They also, these spirits, because you invite them or invoke them, they can also attach to you. So like people carry around the spirit of wrath, the spirit of lust, like Jezebel spirits. This is like a real thing. So they use sex, they use anger and violence, and again, they're not taking over a person completely, but they're like piggybacking on top of them, because again, there has to be like a contract or a complete submission. So like again, you can, even in your dreams, you have to be mindful that, because you can sign a contract or make a deal to let these entities attach to you, or even have sex with you, or breed with you, and you don't even realize it because you think it's just a dream. So you brush it off as not real, or even they have ability. A lot of people don't remember their dreams or think they don't dream at all. But back to my original point too about the eyes. So being mindful of the people around you, watch their eyes. Look for the nonverbal tells that people have. And really a big factor too is watch people who wear sunglasses morning, noon, night, inside, outside. Because especially if you're up here spirit, if you walk with Christ, if you walk with God and you have pure intentions and pure love for the world, and again, people aren't even aware of the divine gifts that they're given. However, they cannot look you in the eye. They do not want to be seen or called out, but especially if you're a pure person, you will make them go blind. You will literally, again, God gave us the power to cast out demons and stomp on them like scorpions and bugs beneath your feet. So again, so they will watch, people will be leery around you if they have these demonic entities attached to them, and they, again, will not look you in the eye. They become a literally, your light or your love will make them angry. So like the other day, and again, but there's ways too, because especially if you're someone who has heightened awareness, again, I love these fucking tan tears, tan tear streaks that I have on my face, because again, I spend so much time crying for the world, but again, it's all love, and heaven counts all your tears. But anyway, back to my point. So like the other night, I come outside of my house for some reason, like my spidey senses were tingling, and or I went to do, like, put something out back in my compost pile, and I see this guy who is like out of it. He is out of it. And when I mean, and I'm looking at him and I'm watching him, he threw something at an abandoned house. And I thought he threw garbage. But again, me being me, I'm just like, hey, little critter, that's not where that goes. But in fact, it was where it went. He threw this, like, dish that one of my neighbors used to feed the stray cats, give them water and food. Also be mindful of that, because some people can be genuinely, like, kind-hearted people who feed stray animals, but there is certain bad people who literally call these animals and trap them so they can, like I said, use these things either as blood sacrifices or to remove consciousness from people and place them in an animal so they can take over their body to commit crimes, to have sex, to do these things that they wouldn't normally do, which is why, and again, we talk all the time about innocent people being locked up, but we don't even know the entire astronomical amount of fuckery that has gone on with the court systems, with education systems, with politics and whatnot and what have you, because we assume that people are just people. We assume that voting and criminal justice system, court process, trials, they're genuinely, for the most part, trustworthy, or that they work the way, organically, the way that they're meant to be. However, just like with the Diddy trial that just went on, a lot of people were like watching it, and Diddy was like doing the heart thing, which again, by the way, is like one of my things. It's like my signature, whatever. But he's blowing kisses to the jurors and shit, because for two reasons: magic and money. He knew that he was protected by some bad powers that be. That was all actually like part of, number one, a bigger humiliation ritual, and number two, what's it called? Again, you see, I'm not a celebrity, but it's called like, what is it called when they do that? Oh, a PR stunt. It's a PR stunt. So it's to make money. They literally, it's to, first of all, it's a bait and switch, because there's something important going on in the world that they didn't want us to see. So instead, they do this scandal with Puffy, and the whole world is watching, because, again, not that people are bad or shallow or whatever, but it was just a little bit more of an entertainment factor than what is something like war or sex trafficking children, even though that trial had a lot to do with sex trafficking. Here's what's weird about that, too. Cassie got paid, what, like $30 million for what happened to her. And I'm not saying what happened to her was okay in any way, but also, why is nobody talking about Cassie did exactly everything Puffy did. And Puffy's facing time in prison. But he probably won't, because he's protected. And again, the majority of the big charges, like, he got off on, and he's like laughing about it. And I'm not saying that all celebrities are bad. I'm not saying that all judges and jurors can be bought or corrupt, because they're just like in life. There are righteous people, and there are righteous judges, and there are righteous jurors. But again, you have to be careful, because even one single thing that you do can open the door for these demonic cults and covens or demons to attach to you and to control your body, in your mind, and your spirit. So again, back to the point, the eyeballs, you can see that machine I was talking to you about with the time jumping or whatnot and what have you. Each time you use it, there's going to be another you, because there's a multiverse, right? So if there's 100 yous running around, or they clone you, like they take you somewhere and they take your blood, they can now attach it to a robotic foundation and use the biological matter to grow another you. So some yous are you, and some yous are falsely created, because again, they want to replace a lot of people with something that can be in their control. And because we have free will, and because more, even though they've been successful for a long time removing God from the world, or from people's hearts or minds or mouths, we're back. We're back. We're building God's army back up. We're spreading the light and the love and the awareness. So now they need to find a way to hold their power. So now they use these clones. So a lot of people are being kidnapped and held hostage, and or broken down and isolated, made to be suicidal. That's why you see a lot more homelessness, because honestly, these demons are literally breaking people down. They're trying to break their spirit, bind their spirit, and people are afraid to speak up, because it doesn't really sound like a normal, sound-minded person when I'm talking to you about, oh, that bird or that squirrel or that groundhog is actually a person, or that this baby is actually a serial killer, that they transported the consciousness of the serial killer into this baby, and this, right? So like, but that's happening. That's literally happening. And a lot of times, but like I was saying about the eyeballs, you can tell. And even now, like we had that, so we used to call these things, like when the FBI or the police, they went undercover, they would use disguises. So I guess the simplest way to talk about this too is to consider it a disguise or movie magic makeup, right? So like they found ways to change their outward appearance, so that they can get into certain areas and aspects. And because again, people have the free will to choose, and there's so many extending uncontrolled variables. They need to, they use these chips. So because again, it gets really expensive. But if you understood where the money goes and what the money is, how the money is raised. So we have like celebrities, or not, I'm not going to say celebrities. We have decorated war heroes, okay, that never been to war, not fucking ever. We got, people that are millionaires, billionaires, that did not earn a single penny of their money. They literally went around stealing it by false marriages, by drugging and siphoning information, and the time jumping, just like in Back to the Future. Remember that one boy? He used the time car or whatever to go back, and he played like some sports placed bets, and he got real rich off that. Like that's like a legit thing. And again, so too, when people see things that are like traumatic, like say you watched a baby be murdered, say you were gang raped, say you were forced to break into a house and do X, Y, and Z, or you watched people do it. Say you were forced to sign a contract and be a part of committing a crime to be initiated into something that you didn't want to be in, or even like peer pressure, bro, like something simple, like, or even something beautiful, like say your neighbors can't have kids. So somebody brings you over to like a barbecue, and they're like, tell you, hey, do you want to help these people have a baby? And you were like, absolutely, I want to have this baby. And you don't have to have sex with anybody. You just stand there and say yes to them wanting to help them have a baby. And then all of a sudden you don't realize that you're now part of a fucking ritual and that you have given away a piece of your soul or your body. And again, you, because of drugs and because of peer pressure and because of the ability for these people to transfer consciousness with or without your realizing, you might one day be out of your body in somebody else's body in a kitchen cooking and getting shot. Or you might be thinking that you're getting the love of your life, or that your children are going to be protected, or that they'll pluck on your heartstrings and say that, hey, if you go here and you you meet with this person, you're going to be saving all these human traffic victims, because again, who wouldn't want to help with that? Or somehow they bind you and make you sign something that you never even moved because your hands are zip tied shut. And now I'm getting a little crazy. Well, it's not crazy. These are all true stories that have truly happened and truly continue to happen, and the world needs to know about it. But mind you, just be mindful of people's eyes and people's nonverbal communication. And because even when somebody is implanted into an organic, actual body, or one of these cyber or karmic clones, right? Or karmic twins, you'll know them. So like there's a way too that, because again, you can tell when they call it children that act or look a certain way, like an old soul, right? Or we, as a society, can be like, okay, and don't come at me for this, but like people with fetal alcohol syndrome, people with mental retardation or certain birth defects, or certain type of, okay, I'm going to say it because it's science. So there's an overstimulated pituitary gland. One, you're being grown in your mother's womb. Okay, there's literally two reasons that people become gay. You're born that way, or you're broken that way. It comes to or three ways, excuse me, because one is conditioning or fear. But usually it's a trauma response or a birth defect. And again, I'm sorry, but science backs me up. They've done these experiments in lab rats. We know that it's an overstimulated pituitary gland and hormone imbalance throughout gestation and then growth. Okay, just like we know that they use the pride colors, the rainbow, but the rainbow is actually an inverted form of the real Fibonacci sequence, the 1.816 or 1.186. Don't come at me, like I said, I'm not a scientist. I just happen to know that that's a sacred geometry. That's a sacred number. Everything that ever is and ever was goes back to this 1.816. And the perversion of the rainbow, because they want to taint everything, just like they wanted to remove from In God We Trust from the courthouses, just like we wanted to stop doing the Pledge of Allegiance, stop doing this, stop doing that, because these pagan rituals where you ingest the blood in the body of Christ, like these certain, they don't want to talk about the Holy Grail being the uterus, the mother of life, the giver of life, the Vikings and other Egyptians and other ancient cultures, the woman was the head of the family, the head of the kingdom, because again, who brings life? And the men were supposed to be the supporters, like we were the rulers and the mother goddesses and the matriarchs, but they wanted to corrupt everything, and now that we call it whitewashing or mansplaining, and it's all this stuff. It's just like, if you have the ability to step back and remove bias, logic, or don't remove logic. Though sometimes you have to, because sometimes you need to think with emotion or relate, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. But sometimes you need to be able to pump the brakes and cut out the emotion and look at the big picture. So, but again, the original point of the post was simply to watch somebody's eyes and watch somebody's actions. Because if you start talking about God or Christ, especially, then the guy that I said that I came out of my house and he was in the yard, he was under the heavy, he looked like he was drunk, but he wasn't. He was under a heavy influence of magic, and as soon, and again, he was like, he didn't really even know who I was. He could barely stand up, and I thought he was drunk, and I got him to like chug some water by making it like a competition. I'm like, how fast can you drink that? You know, and he's like, oh, I don't want it. But again, people don't realize you need to drink water, because even if you are under the influence of magic, if you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol and things like that, water will flush it out of you. Water will help bring you back to purification, and it will help even like dilute those substances, and especially help you be in touch more with your spiritual self and your ability to talk to God. Or even, so you can always talk to God, but God might be able to not get through. Like, you know how you have a mute button on your phone? So these entities and these substances will, even though you have the ability to talk to God, your soul will talk to God, will reach out for help. Even if you don't express it verbally, inside you're like, oh my God, I need help. This is not right. Something's wrong. Even when you're messed up, everybody knows. You're like, oh man, I don't feel good. You talk internally. You're like, I need to lay down or do something like, you know what I mean? And if you don't know what I mean, don't go trying to figure it out. But the point is, like, so you can always internally speak to God or seek help in fighting your skin and fighting your brain, because you know something's wrong, but you might not be able to articulate it, especially if you're not hydrated, if you are overbearing with substances, jealousy, guilt, shame, fear, doubt. Like, you don't understand. So, like, even though you can talk to God and call out for help, but you might not hear his answer because it's muted, because you have all these blockages on you. So, but again, there's even all of that. Oh, well, and again, I was trying to explain that. So even if, because they can change your eye color with contacts or magic, but you can't hide the spirit. So if you start talking about Christ or God, like I did. So this guy was nice. He was seemed like Mr. Charming, and even though he sat down, he drank the water. I was worried. He was out and about doing something he thought was good, and it was good. He was worried for somebody's safety, but in fact, this was a trap from the devil to get him to go somewhere because they were trying to sacrifice him. But again, hear me out. So I start talking about Christ and God and how, because I knew him from my past, where I had been in an area where people were using drugs and drinking, and he had been to my house before even, and we had drank together, and I knew that he was a father, and he had been trying to get his kid, but like now this is like far-fetched. He lost his job. He's all clearly struggling in life. But anyway, when I told him that I now was completely 1,000% sober, no alcohol, no drugs, not pot, not boyfriends or toxic friends, because we knew the same girl. And I was like, I don't hang out with her. I don't hang out with anybody. I'm just on my purpose and path with myself and God right now. So he's like, can I get your number? No, I'm sorry, you can't. Not because you're a bad person or not because of anything other than I am focusing on my path with God and my divine partner. So, and again, you can't just be trying to be everybody's friend, even whether it's male or female, a child or an adult. You can't give people access to your home or to your phone, because they can use that to corrupt your reputation, to corrupt your mind and your heart, and ruin your reputation, ruin your career path, ruin your family. And again, it sounds so far-fetched. It's like a conspiracy, but like the more and more as time goes on, 99% of what we thought was conspiracy, we turned out to be true, right? So anywho, that was my point. And so but anyway, so even if someone's under the influence of drugs and alcohol or magic, so they can put spells even on the weed. to, because again, so this guy, when I started talking about drugs and or God and Jesus, he starts getting like this antsy. He starts ripping up the grass. Like he's on everything else about him is still cheery. He's still looking at me. He's like patiently talking to me, but he is ripping up the grass like angrily, like getting stressed out beyond belief. Because why? The devil and demons don't want to hear about Jesus Christ. That is the only thing that they fear, is God and Jesus. So also be mindful of that. And it's important too that, so even on your journey, say today you don't believe, okay? Those demonic entities and those spiritually infested or infected people do believe, okay? So you will see the power of it, because again, even with those words, you will see a shoo, run real fast the frick away. Even if you can also too, when you are connected to somebody, even if it's somebody you never met before, because again, consciousness can be changed and we don't die. People's spirits can be re-implanted in somebody else, or God will put your people, your tribe, even if you're not blood related. Well, you might be, because it turns out that people have family they didn't know was their family. But either way, God has a spiritual family for you. Your divine partner, your divine friends, will be put around you. And again, they won't ever say like, arrow, here. But there is that, like the movie Hotel Transylvania, the zing. You'll see somebody walking down the street or working somewhere or just be introduced from a family member, and something will be different than every other time you met somebody. Again, that 1 second, like eye locking, like that term, love at first sight. We've been programmed too to not trust that. And I also believe that, like, but now that zing is a little bit different than when you get a crush and you have butterflies, because that is alarm bells. You should not have anxiety or fear or nerves when you are with somebody you're meant to be with, right? So those are like, those butterflies are not butterflies. Those are frickin' fungus gnats and alarm bells. Ding, 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 run the fuck away. But anyway, the important key is to watch somebody's eyes, to watch their spirit, to watch how they act. And it doesn't matter how you bring it up. If you feel nervous, just start talking about God or Jesus, and you'll see real quick if those are your people or not. Now, I know for a fact, too, there was another incident where I was talking to a man, and this witch bitch had put a spell on his weed. Now, he was sent to come and test me, because these people, I know a lot of stuff about what they have done and the magic they use and the crimes that they committed. But they wanted to see, because they can drug you, and they did drug me, and they did these terrible things not only to me but to other people and to children. They were trying to test me. And then there was one time they tried to do a mind eraser. And again, they did. Again, one time again, I'm jumping around, but there was another time where I begged them. I fucking begged them, please take it out of my mind, because it was something that I didn't know how I could go forward knowing what I knew or seeing what I saw, okay? And then, but there are certain flowers, and again, there's certain foods. They can poison your food and give you certain substances to make you forget things. And again, you don't be acting like drugs, like fucked up. It literally just blocks your pineal gland. It crystallifies and calcifies it. That third eye is like a literal thing. We now know too, Alzheimer's and dementia is literally the substances we have been exposed to throughout life. It's like literally comes from those chemical substances that these companies knew would create cancers and memory and cognitive issues. So, but anyway, back to what I was saying about, so this guy was sent over, and this is another thing about the thing. So because of this time jump and shit, and because of these substances they can use to get truth out of you or to do research on you, this man used a certain phrasing of words. Because again, this is somebody from my past that I knew was not trustworthy, and he just came into my life that day acting like he was just a regular person, or he had changed, and he's like struggling because he's seen and been through all these things, and blah, 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 blah. But this was all like a trick and an illusion to try to make me seem like he was different than what he used to be, but really he was a spy. And so they gave him weed too, because knowing that where I am in my life path now, that I was going to start speaking on the Bible, start speaking on the Christ, start speaking on preaching sobriety, and again, he kept bringing up sex, and he's like, why do you think sex is a bad thing? And like, so again, because this is a sex cult, and a murdering cult that these people are a part of. And so he's like, and again, I would go back to explain to him, no, sex is not bad. Sex, in fact, it's biblical. The first lap dance is in the Bible. You're meant to be a whole freak with your partner and explore sexuality together in a beautiful, pure union with your partner. And even so sex was also meant for building the lifeline, the bloodline. And when a woman couldn't, or a man wasn't able to provide the heir, they would bring in another partner. The sister wife thing came from that. Anyway, I'm going to end the video here. The important thing is to watch people's eyes and watch people's spirits and actions.